And this is Singing TV. Together, you and I are making singing simple. I have a very, very special guest and friend today named Matt Cusson. Matt, say hi.
Hi.
Hi. And we're also live here in a class. It's a makeup class that I'm doing for one of my classes that I couldn't make it to. So if you hear giggles and questions and stuff, you'll know that there are like 15, 20 people in here. It's live, and so you'll understand that. Matt is a wonderful singer and songwriter and piano player. See? Told you to turn that off. It's okay, we don't edit.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Wait, that's not me. It's not me.
Anyway, here we are at Lama, where I teach LA Music Academy College of Music, and I brought Matt in to do a really special, sort of a two-parter episode on Matt and on runs, riffs, and melismas, and how to get that whoa, that kind of thing. So we'll get to that in a few minutes. But first I want to talk about Matt. Matt plays piano, keyboards for Brian McKnight and is an amazing singer and songwriter in his own right. He won the 2009 Maxell Song of the Year for the John Lennon Songwriting Contest. And he's, you don't like to talk yourself up a little bit, but I'm going to ask you now, just tell a little bit, oh my god, close that window, I'm sorry, it's going to get hot. Talk a little bit about yourself. You've been on tour with awesome people, like name drop, because it's going to impress all the folks in the room, and they're going to like that, and that will make them actually listen to the things that you say a little bit more. We'll talk about you, your education, or lack thereof, what you know, your brilliance, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And talk a little last minute.
Okay, so... See, it's funny. My name is
Just laughing because you're good looking.
And shut up. I, like Sarah said, I am singer-songwriter, piano player, bit of a guitar player as well. I actually met Sara at Berkeley, where I went for 1 year, and that was an experience. Love Berkeley. It was a lot of fun. Okay, name drop. Past few years have been great for me. I got signed to Spectra Records. We're going to get Sara on that label too. It's going to be great. And my album came out in 2008, you know, Christmas 2008, so almost 2009. And I kind of did it independently. I had getting a couple deals with Atlantic and Warner Brothers, but it just wasn't for me. So I decided to put it out by myself, and now I got picked up by Spectra. And there's a lot of people looking at the second record, so I'm very excited. And over the past couple of years, I played with Stevie Wonder last year, which was a dream come true. Right before I played with Stevie, I got a chance to play with James Taylor, which was a dream come true. And, you know, it's like she said, I've been on tour with Brian McKnight for like 5 years now. I open up the show sometimes, depending on curfews, and I sing background for him and play keyboards for him. I won the Gentleman in Songwriting Contest. I also came in second place in the International Songwriting Competition. And my most recent thing is I just got nominated for an Oasis Jazz Award for my song One of Those Nights, which is I'm up against Sade, and I probably won't win, but it's nice to be nominated. And I'm going at, let's see, this year is, I'm going on a tribute to Michael Jackson tour for about 6 weeks, which is this multi-million-dollar humongous tour. It's an amazing honor to be a part of that. And then my label's putting me on a one-man tour, me and keyboard, starting in May. From here to July, I think. It's going from here to Florida to Massachusetts, where I'm going to do a jazz festival for a month, which you should come sing. And I don't know, I'm playing the Clearwater Jazz Festival, which I'm stoked about, in October. Just a bunch of stuff. There's some stuff.
Yeah. So good things are happening for Matt, which is very exciting for his friends and those of us who love him. And what's incredible, I feel like, about you is that in the music industry, which isn't as huge as you would think, Matt has sort of become very, very, very well liked and well respected. And, you know, it's not like, you know, you don't walk down the street and people go like, oh, it's Matt Cusson. But pretty much any studio musician or touring musician worth their salt, when you mention Matt Cusson, they're like, oh yeah, that dude's bad. It's a little bit like how it used to be when you mentioned Lettucey's name, right before the Grammy.
Sure.
So that's exciting for me, and he's very, very well respected and well liked. And just to drop a little bit more name, Christina Aguilera, come on.
Christina Aguilera, Babyface. I can't remember.
like big name people, and he's a badass, which is basically, you don't need to, you know, you just kind of need to listen to him once and you understand that. And I love talking about my friends, and I think he's great. So, what I really want to discuss is an interesting thing about Matt is that you were only at Berkeley for a year, meaning he was only at music school for a year. And those of you here in class, you're in this very intensive program. But those of you who are watching on Singing TV, maybe music students, maybe not. What I think, and I think everybody who knows you knows to be so incredible about Matt, is that he probably had the best year I've ever heard. In that, Matt does not particularly read music.
I don't read anything. If I had to,
What
I would
words
have
do
to.
you read?
No, yeah, I actually tried. I was on Brian McKnight's Christmas record 2 years ago, and when I went in the studio, they put a music in front of it. And I was like, that's not gonna really work. So the orchestrator came over and played it for me, and then that was good. But yeah, I've never been a reader. If I had to, I'd have to go, okay, space is F, E, C. That's a C, okay, bang. Like, I'm getting the gist of chord charts, which is embarrassing for a jazz piano player. I'm not a huge chord chart reader, but I read her chart a little bit.
Yeah, it's true. And so I think what you'll find is Matt is an incredible rarity, particularly in the jazz world, because he's not the kind of piano player who goes like 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. He can hear jazz chords with lots and lots of extensions on them, and particular voicings that he can play and he can hear, and duplicate them in a second. I mean, it's a little bit crazy genius. So you'll hear in a few minutes kind of what that sounds like. And it's an interesting thing just to have a discussion about education, not education. It's not that we're going to say, like, should you get a music education, should you not? Obviously, everybody here is gone for that. And I think that Matt, if Matt could, he would be like, oh my God, I wish I could read music, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's just sort of a fun thing to say and to talk about, and something that he's not embarrassed about talking about, by saying, because he knows he's a badass, right? And there's nothing that he has to apologize for. So, but that's just an interesting thing to know, because later when we're talking about blues scales and stuff, Matt might say something and I'll interpret, right? So...
What's a blues scale?
See, exactly. So, I want you to... Thanks for that. I want you to just play a couple tunes, get people excited and interested in what you're doing with singing, sing a couple things for them to play.
You sing with me?
I had a minute,
Comfortable with
but
me?
no, you sing.
Fine, good. So,
Sing why don't you sing an original, and then you can do that.
Okay, I'll do a little bit of the song that. Check 1, check 2.
Okay.
Do I not need it? Do I
No,
not need it?
I want you to have it.
Press the lights.
Oh, what number is he
check,
in?
check. 1. There we go. So this is the song that's actually up for the Oasis Jazz Award. And this is also the winner of the John Lennon Songwriting Award, and it's also the winner of the Maxell Songwriting Award. And this one got me signed. This one is when Spectre called me and said, we want that song. And if you go on iTunes now, can I plug?
Yeah.
Okay, if you go on iTunes now, there's actually a version of this song now with a full orchestra. And it's as if the song stepped into a warm bath, a bubble bath. It's really beautiful.
Wow.
That's the best analogy I can think of. When the day settles down and there's no one around, and the moon takes the place of the sun, when the darkness happiness in me is my lone company. Till the stars light the sky, one by one. That's when one of those days turns to one of those nights. That's when one of those nights turns to songs that I write. And all this time passes by, still I can't close my eyes. Please let tomorrow be today. Oh, 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 oh. When there's nothing to do and distractions are few, all my thoughts have a mind of their own. Even times when I dream, I see life blue and green. 50 shades, still I feel all alone. It's been one of those days, yeah. Turns to one of those nights. That's when one of those nights turns to songs that I write. And all this time passes by, still I can't close my eyes. Please let tomorrow be today. Whoa, 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 whoa. I've heard of brand new days and never losing faith, and all those damn cliches that people always say, but mentally drained, 'cause I drive myself insane. I wait all night for a sleep that never comes my way. It's been one of those days, now it's one of those nights, and now one of those nights is this song that I wrote. Now this time passes by, still I can't close my eyes. Please let tomorrow be today. Please let tomorrow be today.
Oh, that is so wrong.
I rarely play that song. I don't know how we accept it.
Amen.
Okay, so you can see why I brought him on for the Riffs Runs Melismas episode / class, right? Great. Let's play another, because really you have to play something because I kind of promised it already.
I gotta remember it. If I screw up the words, you might have to help. You know the words.
I can help. Don't worry. Alright. He does a great cover of John Mayer's Comfortable. Good. Let's. You have a question?
Bring it.
Bring it.
How can you play them so well, but like not to read notes?
We'll get into that in a minute. After, I promise. There'll be a time for questions. We'll do all that. No, it's okay.
Got it.
Play your song, and we'll get into it after. I'm gonna kind of grill, interview you. It's gonna be fun.
Grill me. Barbecue me. Saute me.
That's later.
Okay. That's me forgetting how to play it.
I just remember that time at the market, snuck up behind me and jumped on my shopping cart and rolled down aisle 5. You look behind you, smile back at me, crashed into a rack full of magazines. They asked us if we should leave. Can't remember, we went wrong last September. I'm sure you'd remind me if you had to. All love was comfortable and so broken in. I sleep with this new girl I'm still getting used to. Friends approve, say she's gonna be good for you. They throw me high fives, and she says the Bible is all that she reads, and prefers that I not use profanity. But your mouth was so damn dirty. Life of the party, and she swears that she's artsy, but you could distinguish miles from Coltrane. All love was comfortable and so she's perfect, so flawless, or so they say. Oh, say. Words. She thinks I can't see. Poses for pictures that aren't
chemistry for my students, and so that you guys on Singing TV would believe me when I said he was a badass. So I want to sort of interview Matt and talk a little bit about him. It's not fair to talk about Matt and so, well, how do you do that? Because, and I'm serious when I say that, I mean, you might call, how old were you when you could play like that?
Like that?
Yeah. You could play like that when I met you, and we were...
Sort of, yeah. I was learning. I started playing when I was like 7.
Mm-hmm.
I literally kind of just sat down and figured out Ribbon in the Sky. And I figured it out, and it didn't take me very long. And from there on in, because my mother's a classical piano teacher, so she does it by the book.
So she taught you how to read music. And
exactly. She told me how to read music and play.
It always goes that way.
Yeah.
Everybody I know who has parents who are teachers, like, you can't take it. You can take lessons from anyone but your parents.
Pretty much.
I don't know if you guys are like that, but...
yeah, so she was like, how did you learn that? I was like, I heard it, and I really wanted to play it for girls so I could get girls.
You were 7?
It went from there 7.
Wow.
Yeah, I was... No, I'm kidding. But I liked the idea of playing and singing at that age. Because I always sang, but I never took it seriously. And then when I learned piano, I was like, all right, maybe I can do the singing thing. And it just kind of went from there. I played, and then as I got older, my ear became more sophisticated to, it wanted something more. So I went from Stevie to Miles Davis, and I would say, okay, what's he doing here? And I would figure out that. And then it just kind of went from there. And then I learned how to solo over those things and what to do with the left hand. It just kind of grew. I literally taught myself how to play piano with notes here and there from people. Right. Every time I see a piano player, I'll say, what's your favorite chord? If it's a chord I don't know, I will learn it, and then I will infuse it in everything I play.
Arsenal?
Exactly.
Right on. So, I want you to direct questions. You can direct them at Matt, and I'll sort of interpret, right? Because, it's not quite fair to be like, so Matt, how do you do this? Because Matt really he's like a genius, right? He just hears stuff and does it. And the rest of the world is not necessarily that lucky, although there are other people who are really good at doing other things.
I can't do anything else. If it doesn't work out, I'm screwed.
So, he's a great person to bring in when we talk about riffs, runs, and melismas. When we talk about riffs and runs and melismas, what I mean are improvisations. And these kinds of improvisations aren't things that just became popular recently. It didn't come with Boyz II Men, it didn't come with Christina Aguilera, it didn't come with Bruno Mars. And in fact, improvisation vocally has been happening since ever. I mean, improvisation is not just what we do in music, but chefs improvise, dancers improvise. We all improvise, even when we're talking. If I come up with a sentence, I'm improvising the words. So, in fact, vocal improvisation has long histories from earlier than Baroque music, from medieval music, but through like the cadenzas of a lot of Baroque music. Handel and Bach used to, instead of writing out the end of a phrase, would say, okay, here's the chord for the end of the phrase, and then somebody would improvise over it, and then it would end. So vocal improvisation has had this long history. And let me look at my notes here. I want to talk just for a second about what they are. Everybody calls melisma is the the classical musical term for what we call a run or a riff. Or are there any other? You have some funny trills. What's your funny word? Curls. In fact, Singing TV people comment back if you know any other fun words or riffs and runs.
Or make them up. Yo, did you hear that cheeseburger that girl just did?
It was a good cheeseburger. No, I like it. I think you're just getting excited because he knows we're going home after this to grill.
I haven't eaten yet today. That's why I gotta be honest, since it's a vocal teaching, my voice is very tired. And that's just dead truth. You'll hear the sort of raspiness and breathiness. And I didn't do many runs and riffs because I don't know if I can handle it. So I apologize for that. I didn't come really vocally prepared.
It's okay. I'm not grading it. So, what I kind of want to talk about is what they are. And earlier in some of your classes, we talked about, and I don't mean on an intellectual level, what is it when I go, oh? I mean, when do we use an improvisation? Why would we use it? Because today in a lot of popular music, you hear people, I mean, when I turn on the television, something like American Idol or something, that's all you hear. It's almost like you don't even hear the song anymore. And when I say that, I do sound a little judgmental. So what is a run, a riff, or a melisma, and why would you sing it? Anybody?
Didn't you say earlier to show off?
You can show off.
On American
Oh, 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 hey, hey. Is that why people do it? So they can look what I can do, woo!
Pretty much.
Okay, reason number one can be to show off, yeah.
To add emotion and character to whatever they're singing.
Why do you have to bring that up now? Yeah, okay, absolutely. To add emotion and character to whatever you're singing. How would that add emotion?
Because if you just said a sentence and you really feel it's really important, but there's nothing more to add to that sentence, you can just trail on with the last word and just keep it in the air.
Absolutely. It's almost sort of like getting to add a punctuation mark or something. When I really mean something, I wouldn't say like, Matt, you sound so good. Matt, you sound so good! I'd put an exclamation point, right, on it. And sometimes in music, when words aren't enough, we express ourselves through music. Those of us who are musicians, I think, can probably relate to that. And then I think that on another level, those of us who want to express something through music but don't know how, there aren't the words, or there's no musical way to do it, it's an improvisation that just sort of comes out of you, and an expression of emotion. What else? Show off, an emotional expression, yeah?
Well, it's kind of like adornment.
Uh-huh.
Like, I mean, if you're drawing a painting, like, if it's just like a bunch of circles and it's like black and white or whatever, I mean, it's, you know, it's its own thing, but, you know, I think probably most people would rather look at something with more depth and, you know,
Absolutely.
intricacy.
An adornment or an embellishment. The same reason that you might wear a necklace, or that you might put on earrings, or that you might put on makeup. Now, we've all seen people who maybe wear a little too much makeup, right? That's a little bit like what modern radio, at least in my opinion, has gotten into. It's a little bit like, man, you know, like she would have looked so great if she would just take all the makeup off and put on a ponytail and sweatpants like the song, right?
Exactly.
And so when we talk about runs and melismas, they're things that you don't want to always be using because they're adorning, because they're embellishing what it is that you're doing. Yeah.
Also, to build on that, I mean, melismas also like kind of to place special emphasis on certain phrases or keywords. So, like, you know, if you think your eyes are really important, you would maybe put a lot of makeup on your eyes and leave the rest blank so people really know.
Yeah, you want to bring it out, to notice it. Absolutely.
So with music, if there's like a certain phrase that you want everybody to pay attention to, you might add it there.
Nice. And here, I'll play some examples in a little bit, some of that exact thing. Monica, what were you going to say?
That I love when Carolina says something.
Oh. All right, good. So, woohoo! Everybody here has a paper, and for the Singing TV folks, I'm going to write something up on the board. Thank you. And what I want to talk about is two things. You'll see that you've got on your paper, you've got blue notes and the blues scale. And when we talk about blue notes, we talk about a note, blue. It's a note that's bent. It's neither our Western scale of one tone or the next. It's in between. So I'm not singing major third, and I'm not singing minor third. I'm singing ooh. So you generally find a blue note, if I'm going to write out a back marker. I'm going to write out a scale here, and it's just going to be a diatonic, a chromatic scale. see it in a sec. Gosh, it's getting kind of long. And you see this F sharp, I'm going to put it in parentheses as a G flat, because it's the same pitch, right? Okay, so now that you see that up on the board, when we talk about a blue note, usually the notes that we make into blue notes are going to be the lowered third, the sharp 4, or the lowered 5th, and then the lowered 7th. So I'm going to write those in. I'm going to just put a little thing here. I'm going to put a little arrow here. I'm going to put a little arrow here. So when you're listening to that, it's going to sound like, and let's all sing the chromatic scale. Do, just on a do is fine, you don't have to use numbers. Do, 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 do. Lowered third. Do. Now what we want to do is we want to make it blue. Oh. Try it. Oh. Yeah, it kind of went a little bit lowered and then you lifted it back up. Oh. So there's our sharp 4. La 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 la. Notice that I bent the note. It's a blue note. It's bent, and actually blue notes are said to be a combination from what happened, music that came out of the African work song through slavery here and Western scales. So, oh, I'll sing that. Oh, notice how we're bending that note. Oh. First we did the lowered third, then we did the sharp 4 or the flatted 5th, and now we're going to go up to the lowered 7th. Notice how I can bend that, and it doesn't sound wrong or bad, right? It sounds bent or blue, or in some way, you know, conveying. I actually don't even really want to say or express what it sounds like to me, because I want to leave that up to your ears, right? But let's sing, hey, try it. Hey, good. Hey, hey, yeah, good. Okay, so those are our blue notes, and then I want to talk about our blue scale. Our blue scale is just a pentatonic scale. Pentatonic scale is different from our 7-note scales because pent, is pen mean? Comes from
5.
Yeah, 5. It's a 5-note scale, basically with the addition of a sharp 4. That's how people like to explain it. I don't like to think of it like that because I don't think of pentatonic scales normally. I just think do 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 do. So I'm going to write that blue scale up here on the board, and let's see. Or in parentheses, I'm going to call it the lowered 5th or the sharp 4, same thing. Somebody turn off that snare. Thanks, Maddie. So you can see here, and the blue scale gets its derivation from the same place. So I want to sing that blue scale together. whether you read or don't read. So those of you on Sing TV, you don't read, just listen to the scale. So here goes. So a lot of what we hear when we're thinking and hearing melismas comes from this scale, because so much other music comes from blues and the blues scale, and we can sing over this over lots of different chords. So particularly dominant chords. So I want us to do that again, and I want to listen to some music that uses particularly riffs, runs, and melismas in this style. Again. So when I think of doing a run, I think of like, oh, oh, oh. And of course, a lot of the time, it's those notes, the lower third and the sharp 4 and the flatted 7, that are the ones that are blue. Oh, notice I'm not singing oh, or oh, I'm singing oh, oh. All I just did was oh, oh, part of the blues scale, right?